In this video, we'll be looking at using the passive and the passive form of modals. Let's begin. The passive is used when the agent, that is the subject of the active sentence, is not known or is not important. So this is the main reason for using the passive. And if we use the passive, we can then omit the subject of the active sentence. The passive is usually used without by and the agent. And the reason is because the most common reason to use the passive is in order to omit the subject of the active sentence that we do not know or that is not important. If the speaker knows who performs an action, the active is usually used. However, sometimes speakers may choose to use the passive with by and the agent to change the focus of the sentence. Let's look at some examples. Here's a passive sentence. The Blue Mosque was built between 1609 and 1616. The active sentence for that is someone built the Blue Mosque between 1609 and 1616. Now, which sentence sounds better? The passive sentence sounds better, and it's better to use the passive sentence here because we don't know the agent. It's very awkward to say someone built the Blue Mosque, and it really is not important who built it in this sentence. The focus is on when it was built. Here's another passive sentence. Tea is grown in Kenya. The active sentence is tea farmers grow tea in Kenya. So which sentence sounds better here? The passive sentence is still better because the agent is not important. We know that it's tea farmers who are growing the tea, but that's not important. The important thing here is where is the tea grown? So we can use the passive sentence and omit the subject of the active sentence, tea farmers. Here's another example. The Indiana Jones movies were directed by Steven Spielberg, and that's passive. The active sentence is Steven Spielberg directed the Indiana Jones movies. Now, which sentence sounds better here? Here, we can use the passive or the active. If the focus is on the Indiana Jones movies, use the passive, and if the focus is on Steven Spielberg, use the active. So both of these sentences have basically the same meaning, but there's a slightly different focus. So whichever word is at the beginning of the sentence, that will have the focus of the sentence. The by phrase is included in the passive sentence because it contains important information. So in this sentence, can I take out the by phrase? Can I say the Indiana Jones movies were directed? That doesn't really make sense, right? So in this case, we do need to include the agent. It is important information, but in the passive sentence, it's not the main focus, so we can use the passive form. Here's a chart of the passive form of modals. So the basic idea here is that we have the modal and the be verb and then the past participle form of the verb. So the modal could be one word or it could be a phrasal modal, but that will come first. So for example, can't be opened, should be taught, had better be returned, has to be told, is supposed to be informed. These are the passive forms. Now, if the modal is in the past passive form is the modal, and then have been and the past participle. So if you remember, the past form of modals includes have, should have sent, must have built, couldn't have offered. So in the passive, we also need to use have. Should have been sent, must have been built, and couldn't have been offered.